Hey folks, this is Kelani. Part of the excitement of patch 8.2 is the ability to fly being given back to us once again. This is fairly typical at this point in the game. We start with flying being taken away, and then we have to re-earn it as the expansion unfolds. It might not be the best way to handle this kind of thing, but at least it's a nice middle ground between not having flying at all and always having flying available right from the get-go. As with the last two expansions, unlocking flying will be done via achievements, the Pathfinder achievements to be precise. We already have access to the first part of the Pathfinder achievement for Battle for Azeroth, and patch 8.2 will be introducing the second piece of the puzzle to allow us to fly for real. Let's have a chat about what we need to do to complete Pathfinder Part 2 achievements, have a look at some new mounts coming in patch 8.2, and take a closer look at the new mount equipment feature. Pathfinder Part 2 looks like it's going to be fairly straightforward and follow the typical formula that we've been following for quite a while now. We know we'll have to complete achievements in both new zones, Nazjatar and Mechagon, and part of that will be earning reputation with our new factions in each zone. For the Alliance, that's going to be the Ann Cohen in Nazjatar, while the Horde will be earning rep with the Unshackled in Nazjatar. Additional to the Nazjatar rep, you'll need to grind rep with the Rust Bolt Rebellion. This one is the same for both factions and is the main reputation in Mechagon. Apparently, the Pathfinder achievement will require us to get to Revered with these factions, so there's going to be quite a bit of rep farming going on when patch 8.2 releases. I would also expect some achievements relating to exploring the new zones, as that's always pretty typical, so you need to go around both Nazjatar and Mechagon and explore every little teeny weeny corner of each zone to unlock the ability to fly. After all, you couldn't be confident navigating the skies of these new zones if you have no idea what the ground looks like, right? And that might be all. That's all flying in Legion took by the end of things, some reputation stuff, some exploration stuff, and of course finishing off Pathfinder Part 1. But before they slimmed it down a little, the Legion version of Pathfinder also required you to complete the main storyline of the new zones and take part in various invasions across the Broken Isles. So obviously they wanted to include a few other activities in there to keep us busy, but decided to cut away some requirements to make it easier and faster to obtain. If they keep the slimmed down version, it shouldn't be too hard to pick up flying in patch 8.2. If they add in a few extra things in there, it might take a little more effort, but we do have an estimated time frame. While talking about the various requirements, the dev team said Pathfinder Part 2 should take on average 2 to 3 weeks to obtain after patch 8.2 goes live. That's not too bad in the grand scheme of things, and about typical for a rep farm to Revered. A few weeks without flying shouldn't be too bad either. After exploring the new zones on foot for a little bit, we'll be soaring through the skies, skipping over everything and anything that might otherwise be hindering us. As a cool little bonus, you will also get a new flying mount when you unlock Pathfinder Part 2, so it's not just about the flying this time around, there's a mount to go along with it as well. You'll get the flying mechanical parrot that we saw quite a while ago, but we didn't know where it would come from until this little update. So even if you hate the idea of the Pathfinder achievements, at least there's something tangible waiting at the end. The mechanical parrot isn't the only new mount coming with patch 8.2 though. In fact, it seems like we're going to get quite the selection of stuff to ride around on, including a new bike. Just because it only has one wheel doesn't mean it isn't a bike, okay? And this is probably one of the coolest mounts we've had in a while, so naturally it's one that everyone is going to want to get their hands on. I have some good news. And some bad news on that front. Anyone and everyone will be able to collect this mount fairly easily by the sounds of things. It's not going to take too much effort in the grand scheme of things. It's not going to be difficult. That's the good news. The bad news is that it might take quite a bit of time. This mount is a reward from the meta achievement for the Mechagon zone, and from what little we know of that achievement so far, it's chock-a-block with random bits and bobs from all over the new zone, so it's probably going to take you a little while to tick everything off your list so you can ride around in true gnomish fashion. That's not the only mount from Mechagon. We'll also be able to collect a Mechanocat mount, By gathering up enough scrap and batteries and other materials from around Mechagon and turning it into our friendly neighborhood upgradeobot. We're not too sure how much we'll need yet, but we do know that we can repaint this mount a variety of different colors, which might be one of the first steps to adding some new customization options for the rest of the game. If one mount can be dyed or recolored or repainted, then maybe other mounts or gear will follow suit sometime in the future. We also have the crab mount that was previewed at BlizzCon, I believe it was. We're not sure how to obtain this one just yet, but the plan to make it walk sideways seems to have carried forward, so that should be a fun one to ride around on. And then we also have the Snapdragon mount. If you played a lot of Warcraft 3, you probably remember the Snapdragon Naga unit that sort of disappeared off the face of Azeroth. Well, the Snapdragons are back, and we can strap a saddle onto one to force it to carry our fat butts around. So mount collectors should be kept busy in patch 8.2 for sure. And then the last thing I wanted to talk about in a bit more detail is the new mount equipment feature. What it can do, how it's going to work, and what it might mean for the future of mounts in World of Warcraft. How it's going to work is fairly simple by the looks of things. We get one equipment slot, which works for all of our mounts. One piece of equipment can be equipped at any given time, and no matter which mount you're using, with one or two exceptions, that mount will be given the power of the equipment you have. We only have 3 examples right now. One which allows you to water walk, one which gives you a parachute if you get dismounted high in the air, and one which prevents you from being dazed while you're on your mount. None of these effects are particularly new. They're something that has been in the game one way or another up until this point, but now we can apply these effects to every mount we have at the same time just by using this equipment feature. As a quick note, your equipment is consumed when you slot it in, so if you want to switch between water walking and no daze, you'll have to buy or create a new piece of equipment every time you want to swap. For now, it looks like these pieces will be created via professions, and then if you have a water walking mount, you'll actually get a water walking item free in your mail, because things are changing there, and the water walking inflatable shoes will be purchasable from the same vendors that sell water walking mounts. So they kind of come from the same place as they do right now, except it's not going to be barding or shoes, it's just going to be equipment slots for your mount. I would say the water walking one is pretty huge and sounds like it was the main reason this entire feature was developed in the first place, with everyone and their grandmother picking up a water walking mount for its innate ability to, well, water walk, and then using that mount for the vast majority of the time, because there's nothing worse than running up to a large body of water, realizing you have to swap to a water strider and waiting 3 whole seconds before you can continue your adventure. I guess the dev team decided it was time for a change. So water striders can no longer water walk at all, but with a new equipment system, any mount can walk on water, providing you have the required inflatable mount shoes, of course. So this kind of just simplifies everything, doesn't it, really? If you want to use your favourite Drake mount, go ahead, that can walk on water now too. If you fancy running around on one of the many horses you have as an Alliance character, that can walk on water now as well. You don't have to pick and choose based on special effects, which means you can use whatever mount you want. But that also means that mounts aren't really all too special anymore. But hold up, there are still a few special mounts out there. Vendor mounts, auction house mounts, even a mount that can happily chop up herbs without having to dismount. What about those mounts? Well, it sounds like vendor mounts will still be able to use this equipment without any problems. As the dev team said, no one really runs around on these mounts anyway, they're just used for their vendors most of the time. But as for the Sky Golem, that mount won't be able to use any mount equipment, but as a trade-off you can still collect herbs without having to dismount. So no water walking for the Sky Golem, unless you're a class with water walking, I guess, but then you probably didn't care about inflatable shoes anyway. I think this is a nice start for a mount equipment system. But I do think it's a double-edged sword. The more customization options you put into a mount-wide system while taking away any individual special effects, the more mounts just become another skin. It doesn't really matter if you have a water strider anymore because every mount can water walk. That takes away some of the uniqueness and cool aspects that comes with mount hunting specifically, and makes me worry that we'll see less interesting effects on mounts as a whole going forward. If they want to add in something else that mounts can do, like glide or jump further, maybe even some combat options later on down the line, they're probably going to add that into the equipment system instead of adding those special effects to special individual mounts. So on one side, I can see why they decided to go with this approach, and I think it's going to work quite well for what it's being designed for right now, making it feel like you can use more mounts than just a water strider while leveling and whatnot, but part of me worries that this will lead to more general, widely applied effects at the cost of smaller, unique effects which are specific to one type of mount. Kind of like the new Heart of Azeroth stuff, everything is available to everyone, which means none of the effects really interact with the classes or specs on a rotational level. Having access to everything is nice sometimes, but when nothing feels special, you have a really tricky situation on your hands. I guess we'll have to wait and see what they add to the mount equipment system to see how it holds up in the future, but that's it for this video. What do you think about another reputation grind for the Pathfinder Part 2 achievement? Which of the new mounts coming in patch 8.2 is your favourite so far? Leave all your thoughts in the comments section below. A big thank you to all of our supporters over on Patreon. You can see their names floating by on screen. If you want to join these lovely guys and gals, you can find a link in the description below. Remember to leave a like just below the video before you leave, and if you want to see more, make sure to subscribe. But apart from that, thanks for watching folks, good luck and have fun, and as always I will see you next time.